What's going on, guys? Alpha the Wizard back at it again with another video. Today we're going to be continuing the meta history of Yu-Gi-Oh! And we are still on year 2005 GOAT format, one of the more popular formats of this time. But yeah, so the deck we're going to be covering today is going to be a Chaos Control variant. Now, the top two decks in GOAT format were arguably the Toolbox versions and the Chaos versions. And we already covered the Toolbox variant, and today we're just going to cover arguably the second best deck, which is Chaos. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and hop right in. So starting off with the boss monster, we gotta play Blackluster Soldier on Void the Beginning for good reason. We are playing Chaos. Now, Chaos did die off from what it used to be because Chaos Emperor Dragon got banned, and all that was left of the remnants is Blackluster Soldier. But then, in addition to the Chaos strategy, you know, we kind of gotta play Chaos Sorcerer now. But we don't just play one, we do play two copies. So Chaos Sorcerer is very mandatory in this deck because we do play a compilation of lights and darks. So we are doing everything in our power to facilitate the Chaos monsters. So yeah, one Blackluster Soldier, two Chaos Sorcerer, but then in addition to this, and it also helps facilitate the Chaos engine, we do play three Thunder Dragon. Now, Thunder Dragon's really good in this deck because it just allows you to get a free light in your graveyard rather quickly. But also, you know, sometimes if you have like a premature burial, you know, you can bring this out and it is a decent attack. I never really cared for Thunder Dragon as a card back then, but Chaos decks predominantly played it, and those are the ones where it's really mandatory. But then in addition to the big monsters, we do play a singular copy of Breaker the Magical Warrior. Breaker's really good this format, mainly just because, you know, it's a very set heavy format. So they might have like a Mirror Force face down, a Sakuretsu Armor, or even a Scapegoat. So Breaker breaking a Scapegoat, it might feel really bad, but you're able to get it out of the way rather quickly, as opposed to them just holding on to it. And then we do play a single copy of Tribe Infecting Virus. Now, it's very easy to facilitate this card in this deck because we're going to have like free cards in our hand half the time because we do play like Sinister Serpent, but then also Thunder Dragon. So, you know, a lot of times we can just like normal summon Tribe, discard one of the extra Thunder Dragons from our hand, and it accomplishes multiple purposes. We can blow up the field, depending on what we call, and then we can also dump a light in the graveyard or even a dark if need be. But yeah, so we got one copy of Tribe, and then we do play three copy of Dokoichi. Now, this deck is, like I mentioned, very chaos dependent. So Dokoichi is one of the better cards that we can set like in this deck. Now, there is argument that Dokoichi's not that great this format because of Noblemen of Crossout being heavy in the format. However, I do say the recursion aspect is well worth it. And it's a dark. So, you know, getting Dokoichi in the graveyard isn't all bad because now you have multiple options for darks. But then in addition to Dokoichi, we do play three copies of Gravekeeper Spy. Now, Gravekeeper Spy is really good in this deck because it is another good monster that we have an option of setting. And it is a wall, so there's not very many monsters that can just be normal summoned and beat over Spy this format. So it's really, really good in that aspect. Plus, it's a dark. It can also buy us time. It's very common for them to attack into a Spy. You get another Spy, and then on your next turn, you just set like a Dokoichi. Very, very, very slow, steady, controlled game. That's basically how this deck operates. We do play a singular copy of Tsukiyomi. Tsukiyomi synergizes really well with the flip effect monsters. There is argument on why we would play Dokoichi when we can just play Dark Mimic level 1. However, in this particular deck, we don't play Metamorphosis. Some people do play Metamorphosis in their Chaos decks, but I don't think it's necessary, in my opinion. I mean, yeah, there is argument to play Dark Mimic with maybe 2 or 3 copies of Meta, because it is a level 1, but Dokoichi also has good attack power, so I think 1400 is justifiable, and it can beat over most defense position monsters this format. And then we do play a single copy of Sangan for good reason. Sangan is pretty mandatory in every GOAT deck this format because it can search about pretty much anything in the deck. And then in addition to Sangan, this strategy opts to play 2 copies of Night Assailant. Night Assailant is better in this deck than most because we're playing so many flip effects. So we play Dokoichi, we play Spy, we play Magician of Faith. So, you know, being able to discard a Night Assailant for like maybe a Tribe Infecting Virus or even like Graceful Charity, we're able to just recycle a flip effect monster from our graveyard. So having 2 Night Assailant is pretty valuable. But then, you know, as I just mentioned, we do play 2 copies of Magician of Faith. Some Chaos variants opt to play 3 just because they want the extra light monster. However, I don't really think you need more than 3 Faith, especially if they Nobleman this, you know, it feels really bad. But also, we have plenty of monsters we can set already, so we don't really need 3. But then I do play a singular copy of Sinister Serpent, most recursive card in GOAT format, and you kind of have to have Serpent in this deck because it just synergizes with everything. And then the last monster I opt to play is a Magical Merchant. This card is debatable in Chaos decks. Some people play the 3rd Magician of Faith over Merchant. However, I just like the idea of being able to excavate the deck for a spell or trap because the spell and traps that we play in this deck are very, very powerful. Now, Faith, you know, setting Faith first turn isn't always that strong. However, setting Merchant allows us to dive into our deck quicker and getting lights and darks in the graveyard. But yeah, so that's really it for the monster lineup. On to the spells. Of course, we have to play the power spells. We got the Graceful Charity, the Pot of Greed, and then of course we do play the Delinquent Duo. This is called the Trio in GOAT format. If you've seen one of my previous GOAT profile videos, you know, you hear me talk about the Trio in every video because that's basically what they call this in GOAT. But then, of course, we'll have all the power spells. We have Snatch, Steal, Premature Burial. These are all just staples in almost every GOAT deck. Heavy Storm. This is a format warping card because when Heavy Storm's in the format, people have no choice but to play around it, simplifying game states. And then, of course, 1 Mystical Space Typhoon. Every single one of these cards are at 1 this format, so you can't play any more, but that just goes to show how strong they are. And then we do play a single copy of Book of Moon. And then last but not least, we played 2 copies of Nobleman of Crossout. This is one of the better spell cards this format because it's very, very set heavy format. So Nobleman can eliminate their Magician of Faiths. Unfortunately, it gets rid of yours too. But even Nobleman hitting a Recruiter is very strong, or even a Sangan or Sinister Serpent. I don't play Metamorphosis in this build. I don't think it's necessarily needed with the cohesiveness that the strategy already has. So moving on to the traps, I do play 1 Torrential Tribute. This card was another staple in GOAT format, as well as Mirror Force. Mirror Force was another staple. This card, both of these cards were actually at 1, but that, like I said, that just goes to show the power of these cards. And then we do play a single copy of Ring of Destruction, also limited to 1. Ring was just a very good card, and this card will eventually get banned in the future in a few formats to come. And then a singular copy of Call the Haunted. Some Chaos decks opted not to run Call the Haunted, but I think just in tandem with like Sangan and, you know, playing like a Chaos Sorcerer that you can revive after they out it, Call the Haunted is really good. But then, since we do play a very set-heavy deck, we played two copies of Sakuretsu Armor. Sakuretsu Armor is very good when you play a lot of set heavy monsters because you're going to be setting a lot, and setting Sakuretsu in tandem with having like a Tsukiyomi in hand. You know, you flip to Koichi after you Saku'd their monster, draw a card, you know, get in some damage, and then summon Suki, flip to Koichi like face down. Like, it's just very, very powerful. And then last but not least, we play 2 Regeki Break. Now, you might wonder why we play Regeki Break. However, this isn't really a staple card in GOAT format. However, in some Chaos decks, it is, because we're going to be drawing a lot of cards with our flip effects, and then also Thunder Dragon just gives us an extra card anyway. And then we do play Sinister Serpent, which is another good discard card for this as well. But then we have Night Assailant. So we have so many good discard outlets justifying Regeki Break. This card is very good because it can destroy any card on the field. It's also really good against like burn strategies as well. But yeah, so that's really it for this deck profile. Let me know what you thought about this deck down below in the comments. And yeah, tell me what you think about this GOAT list. Would you play Metamorphosis in this or no? And with all that being said, thank you for watching the Meta History of Yu-Gi-Oh! I will see you in the next one.